Hi guys, welcome back to day number 3 of the EDGE experience. I'm Noga Milstein and I am so excited to see you here all with me. Yesterday's sessions about boosting our financials was extremely helpful, and thanks to the insightful workshop with Maya Vander, I think I can speak for some people saying that I now have a better understanding on how to start my research for purchasing a new home. Today we'll learn about how to enhance our network as a key to maximize our success. We'll hear from the experts on how to network successfully while engaging and gain knowledge on topics that will help us stand out amongst others. I'd also like to take a moment and thank our amazing sponsors, Masa. Masa is a marketplace for long-term opportunities in Israel where you can explore your career path, meet global network of friends, and make positive impact on the world through internship, volunteer, academic, and teaching programs. During the pandemic, Masa also created an option to study and work remotely from Israel. You don't need to know Hebrew to join, and Masa offers grants and scholarships when you apply. This is such an amazing resource at our fingertips. So thank you so much, Masa, for making this next session possible.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to open this third day of the conference alongside Eran Ben Shushan. A little bit about myself. My name is Amir Icholsky. I'm the CFO of Green Street Power Partners, a solar development and management company operated throughout the US. Been living here in New York in the past 7 years, married to Hadas and a father of 3 beautiful children. I've been involved with the ISC in the past 5 years on various community initiatives, as well as graduating in 2020 from the Gvanim program, a community leadership program designed to help individuals who would like to engage in various community initiatives and understand how the IAC can support their efforts. With me today, we have Eran Ben Shushan. Eran is the co-founder and CEO of Bizabo, the world's fastest growing event technology company, founded in 2011. He lives in New York and can tell us a bit more about himself. Eran?
Hello, Amir. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. Super excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. As Amir said, I'm based out of New York. We're a company that started originally in Israel. I personally moved here 5.5 years ago when Bizabo found product market fit. And we realized that we want to scale our sales and marketing and revenue as a whole as a company. So we have part of our team based in Tel Aviv, part of the team that's new for us now based in Kiev, and part of the team here across the US. Before Bizabo, I was in the Air Force. I was a system engineer then in a big company, and I was an event planner. And then I met my 2 co-founders, and we started Bizabo 9 years ago.
Thank you, Eran. Just to add one more thing, if you have any questions for Eran or myself, please comment. And we will address those in the end of the conversation. Eran, I guess my first question is, we are living in a crazy reality in the past year. Teams are scattered throughout countries and throughout places. Some are working from home, some are working from their parents' home. The more courageous people actually go to the office, travel is restricted, sometimes banned. So people are meeting each other only on cameras, like we do right now. How do you maintain the company culture and the spirit throughout this kind of challenges?
That's a great question. Maybe the most important ones, because, at the end of the day, when we talk about company culture, and for us, this is a big deal. We're a company that went through a lot. We went through several pivots in our history. In fact, 3 pivots, and COVID was one of them. And we were able to go through those pivots successfully, only thanks to our values and our culture. And that's something that you need to really appreciate. It starts from that, and then you need to work in it on a daily basis. And you need to design it. You need to be deliberate and intentional about it, and you also need to bring everybody in the company behind it. The reason culture is so important, there's this beautiful sentence that says that culture eats strategy for breakfast. I'm a big believer in that. I think that the culture is the operating system of every organization and every company. The way we are dealing with it, so it starts with the history and the genesis of the company. We always did invest in culture. So I think it's not just something that you can flip and say, hey, now we want to invest in the culture. It needs to be inherited into the company's origins from basically day one. And for example, in COVID, which was a massive crisis for us, we're in the event space and event software, and basically events were completely shut down in March of last year, and we went completely virtual, which is something that we didn't do before. One of the reasons we were successful is because we came in with a lot of social capital, a lot of trust, and a lot of camaraderie between the people on the team. And the second thing is that now in the virtual world where everybody is behind screens, as you said, we work for it, we work in it, we invest a lot of hours listening to our people, we lean in, we lead by example, we try to lead by example and do our best as leaders. We're showing a lot of empathy, and we understand that everyone is a little bit of a different situation, and we bring people together behind our core values with a lot of humility and a lot of care and just listening to our people and showing a lot of empathy.
I can give an example for my company on culture. How do we maintain our culture? We have once a week, we have a happy hour where everybody are sitting at home. They got from the company, they got these cases of, it can be whiskey or it can be wine, however you want. And everybody are just sitting, drinking together. And you feel like you are sitting in a bar with your friends from work. You can do like a side chat with whoever you want. This is the only way, I think, to maintain, the culture and to maintain the connection between the various groups. Which actually lead me to my next question. What tips can you give to young entrepreneurs who grow their career and develop the culture in their company?
Well, first I would say identify your culture very early on and be explicit about it. Try to articulate it. And the reason that it's so important to articulate it is because many times you think that something is obvious, but your only way to create alignment with other people is if you have a very clear, cohesive way that is also consistent to explain your culture and to explain your values as an organization. So starting early, and actually it's even more important when we are isolated, when we don't have an opportunity to come to the office and spend more time together in person. So starting early on is one thing. The other thing is realizing that it's something that requires a lot of investment. And that you need to really be authentic with the people that you bring. So what I mean by that is that you cannot design a culture if it doesn't really represent who you are and your set of core values as a leadership team, as a founding team, and also the people that you hire need to be hired according to that set of values. So those would be my tips. Starting very early on, being explicit, working in it, and hiring for it, and constantly holding it together.
You're managing a company that is growing exponentially during this time and during the past couple of months and year. When everyone is sitting at home and not going to the office, how did it change the way you guys are hiring? And what are you guys looking for when it comes to new hires right now?
Yeah, so we're basically looking for the same thing, but we are just paying a lot more attention to make sure that the imperatives are really there, right? So one thing I can tell you, for instance, is that we're looking for people who are easier to cope with adversity and actually love changes And that's something that we look also in their track record in their career. If they're able to cope with change at ease and living in peace with that, that's a good indication, especially in an ever-evolving market, an ever-evolving startup culture like we are. We're looking for people who are taking a lot of ownership. One of our core values is we own it, and we actually have it in the core values. We use the term Rosh Gadol. For those of you who know what Rosh Gadol means, it means big head in Hebrew, but it basically talks about the ability to take initiative, to have your own internal engine, and if you see something that is broken, to actually go and own it and fix it. So we're looking for those kind of attributes when we're hiring for people, and we're looking for people who are more autonomous in their ability to take an initiative and follow through and hold themselves accountable because of this new reality that we're living in.
You personally have been moved here from Israel, I believe, 6 years ago to the US. How do you see the community here in the US evolving, and and from what you saw in the past couple of years, and what do you think that we as a community, as the Israeli community, the Israeli American community, can do better or should do better?
I think there are so many great things here, so many opportunities. I think that what we're doing as a very diverse company, and one that has multi-cultures within each location, but also between the different locations. One thing that we're trying to do is to bring the best of all worlds. So I think that the things that we're taking from the culture here is more about thinking about scale, building processes, the ability to really think more long term, and really understanding how to also convey our message in the best way possible. All of those things I think are the strength that we're combining into our culture from what we are experiencing here after we relocated and moved here. I do think that everything related to coping with change, to being what we call radical innovators, and daring. One of our core values is we dare. I think that daring and taking risk is probably the only way to really thrive, and especially in times of adversity, and especially if you're trying to swing for the fences and do something big and impactful. So I think that the ability to be a little bit more agile, and the ability to innovate in fast pace and take initiative, those are the things that we're trying to take more from the Israeli culture and embrace that and recognize that also with our teams here and all over the world.
Okay, going back into the business side of things. During this time, as we said before, we're sitting across from each other in cameras. How do you manage your sales during this time? What has been changed from pre-corona, pre-virus to where we are today? I can tell you from my point of view that we are, we see that people are actually able to meet you outside of the hours. You see changes on reality that people are meeting you at 9 p.m. because they need to put their kids to sleep. People are minded. You're mindful for things that you didn't be mindful. You weren't mindful before. So how was that? How is this? How was that changing your your sales strategy and the way that you guys are selling?
I think that we are trying to be more personable than we were before. The transition for us was not extremely painful because we were a company. We were not working remotely. We were very much office based, but most of our sales, specifically sales, was done on an inside sales model. So we didn't have a lot of people going on jets and flying. And although we do have enterprise customers, and this is our sweet spot in the market, we are very used to running sales processes over Zoom even prior to the pandemic. I do think that the things that are changing is that people, although on one hand they have more time, at the same time they have less time. They're trying to achieve more. There are more changes that are taking place in everybody's lives, in everybody's organization, and we try to be very mindful of that. And we try to be very personable. And second thing is that we're trying to also analyze their entire customer journey and not just the interaction with the salesperson. And we're trying to streamline that and make it frictionless. Also in, for example, the collaterals that we provide on how we educate them about the product, how we walk them through the technology. So we're building a lot of efficiencies into the process, but not looking at it only narrow sighted with the interaction with the actual salesperson, rather the more holistic experience, which is now everything is digital. So you have to really think about it and design it in a holistic manner.
Yeah, I think that it's actually better for you guys if you were selling in Zoom before. Now you don't need to actually explain to people how to use it. You know, all the mute and all of those features that we saw in April and May, like the baby steps that people got to into Zoom and into this video chat and into these video meetings. You just you're not facing it, and it's great. I have one more question in regards to budgeting. So, my world is the world of finance, the world of budgeting and finance and money. When it comes to budget control and to your 2020, how you saw it in 2021, how you planned it like a year and a half ago, and how you adjusted your budget and your and basically your operations. What has been changed? What did you guys change, if you want to talk about that?
So I think that there are some things that are obvious that are going to change from a budget perspective, like travel that is going to be reduced, like the future of work that we are going to need to invest more. We're going to need to be creative in how we have offices, or how we design them and create the right environment that is on one hand collaborative, but at the same time also one that is encouraging the remote work to some extent. So again, we're going to need to invest more capital into making sure that people have all of those elements that we talked about before, that building the relationship, the in-person aspects of it, the creativity that we see that is much easier to create on a whiteboard in an office than doing that remotely over Zoom. So balancing and trying to understand where we need to invest in everything related to the employee happiness, employee productivity, and the future of work, including, for example, how our offices are designed. That's something that we're going to invest more resources than we did in the past. I think that the other things that are very important to understand is that from a digital revolution standpoint, because everything is moving digital, and some things are going to go back exactly to how they were prior to COVID, but many things are going to sway more towards virtual and more towards digital. And I think that as organizations, we need to understand and budget for more usage of technology and making investments into platforms and tools that on one hand help us work remotely, help us engage with our customers remotely, help us run our events in our world. The products and technology that we build is how to run events virtually, hybrid, and in person to adhere to the future state of how events are going to look like. So much more investment in technology, that I can tell you for sure, is something that we are planning and budgeting for.
Okay. Going back to personally, your day-to-day, if you can give us a little bit about your day-to-day and how was that changed during the pandemic or during your time during the last year. What can you share with us on that?
It's mostly from very early morning, because we also have the Israeli office and I'm also, very much involved in leading the product, which is being built there. So days are definitely longer. They start earlier than they started before. I'm pretty much in front of Zoom or other platforms most of my day. That's probably what's typical for everyone. I do want to say that, for example, for us, we do open the office twice a week at a limited capacity, and I try to always go and be there. So that's something that I make sure that it's a great opportunity, even if it's just with a smaller portion of the team. People really enjoy it, and we're able to connect and to build relationships and to see each other after a long time. So that's another thing that I'm doing. Trying to be a little bit more mindful of health and in general, I think, there are a lot of things that are extremely miserable about this pandemic, but I think that, just being grateful and staying close to the family and appreciating, what you have and being there for your people and the employees and the customers, those are the things that probably changed in the doses of how much of my day I invest in those things.
Yeah, I can say for myself that it was just in the past year we were traveling before, but we put that on hyper, the traveling, because staying with your kids at home during their Zoom and you need to work and so on, it's just it's been insane. But luckily enough, our school, which our kids go to the same school, has been open and has been great throughout that time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time, Eran, for doing your busy schedule. And guys, enjoy the rest of the conference. Salute.
Bye.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all the young professionals on the West Coast. Good afternoon to all of those joining from the East Coast. And while we're at it, Laila Tov to anybody joining us from Israel. My name is Leo Yehuda. I am in my volunteer life, I am the chairman of the IAC Lead in Los Angeles. In my professional life, I'm the co-founder of Lending 360 and Mason Co. LLC. But today's session is not about me. We have with us the incredible entrepreneur, Mr. Yaron Samid. Yaron is an Israeli-American tech entrepreneur, investor, and startup community builder. Yaron is the founder of Tech Aviv. He is also the managing partner of Tech Aviv Founder Partners, a pre-seed venture fund backed and powered by over 100 of the world's most successful company builders, including 30 unicorn founders. Yaron lives in Tel Aviv with his family and is a regular guest lecturer at Stanford and Columbia Business School. Yaron, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Leo, it is great to be here. I'm still jamming to that intro music. That was awesome.
All right, that
Yeah.
pumped us up.
And you got the whole radio thing going, the DJ, I'm waiting for you to start rapping.
Trying to get professional. We can rap after.
All right.
So before I get started, I also want to let everybody watching us know, feel free, whatever platform you're on, whether you're watching this on the main session or through YouTube, chat in the comments. We'll try to get to any questions if you do have them. And, before I get into the questions, Yaron, with you, I'd like to maybe start with your journey, how your entrepreneurship journey began before Tech Aviv and everything else.
So the very beginning, it always starts with where you grow up and how you're raised. And I happen to be raised by two very entrepreneurial parents, both of them still very active in startups right now as we speak. And so I was very inspired early on. I did have some real jobs. I was actually like employable for a little period of time right after my college studies. But soon after, I started realizing that I'm a pretty bad employee, and I kind of like doing things my own way. That was around 2001 that I started my first company, and been an entrepreneur for the last 2 decades.
Wow, 2 decades. That's incredible. So tell us, what is Tech Aviv?
So in parallel to starting, actually, I've been involved now with 5 companies, 3 of them as a founding CEO, 2 more as a founding board director. And somewhere in the middle there, in the summer of 2007, I started an organization called Tech Aviv, which is a founders club. It is a nonprofit organization that basically creates a framework for Israeli founders worldwide to help each other. Started very simple with myself and fellow Israeli founder CEOs who would get together for coffee in New York at the time. Safe space where we could really unleash the true dirty laundry of building companies, which is something you can't really share with a spouse or employees or investors. But fellow founders in the arena can understand what you're going through. And we were able to have that safe space. We protected it. We made it invitation only. So we grew by inviting members that would be recommended by someone who was already in the group. And organically, we've now grown to 3,000 members worldwide. We have members in 16 cities. We have an incredibly high quality group of founders because great founders know how to identify other great founders. Today, there are over 40 unicorns in the Tech Aviv membership. Most of them joined us when they were pre-seed or seed. We have another 200 companies that are valued north of 100 million. And I am just a very, very lucky guy that gets to kind of facilitate this global network of founders who are there to help each other out. That's what Tech Aviv is all about.
That's beautiful. That's incredible. Also getting such, powerful business minds all together. That's not an easy task. So, congratulations on successfully pulling that off. So, most ideas come from either a need or usually even a pain. What was the cause for this idea? Why did you even come up with this concept?
Sure. So back in the summer of 2007, I was still a newbie to company building. And so I wanted to learn from fellow founders. Not only that, I wanted to get the energy that you could only really get from fellow founders who are in the trenches going through the immensely emotional ride of trying to build a company. There's a lot of ups and especially a lot of downs. And to be around fellow founders who are going through that fills you up with what I call emotion capital. There's venture capital, which is what you need, a little bit of money to get a company started. But in order to really make it through all the hardship that starting a company entails, you need to have the emotion, this almost like unreasonable drive to keep going when everything is telling you no. To keep going, you can try to do it on your own, but when you're surrounded by others who are doing the same and persevering, it gives you that emotion capital, what I call EC, as opposed to VC. And I needed it. And so I would gather some of my friends for the purpose of helping me both learn best practices on how you build a company, and two, to get that emotion capital to keep going when things were tough. That was the need that I was solving for myself. It was also a way for me to give back and to help fellow founders by creating this framework where we could help each other.
Okay, so obviously the pandemic has changed a lot of businesses and the trajectory of where they were going or what they had planned. We all know that everybody adjusted with, Zoom meetings. Even this conference, case in point, is being done virtually. But has the pandemic positively or negatively impacted Tech Aviv?
So the obvious effect is that we can't meet offline as we used to. We've done over 200 events where we would gather offline since 2007. By the way, we have major branches in Tel Aviv, New York, Silicon Valley, and Boston. And we would do these offline gatherings that today, obviously, we can't do. So now we've moved over to webinars and online events. We also have a member app that any member in our international network can reach out to a fellow member, ask for help, ask for an introduction. And so we've pivoted, obviously, to more of a virtual connection versus offline. And I have to say, I miss it. There's nothing like getting in a room of 200 founders talking about a topic of the day and just feeling the energy of founders around you. I think, by the way, IAC Edge is a perfect example of that. You've got young professionals who are, equally motivated to succeed. Being around each other is kind of, I think, one of the most effective ways for you to be inspired and driven to continue. And in the meantime, while we wait for, the world to get back to normal, we can do what we're doing here today, which is get together virtually.
Yeah, absolutely. So, anytime I have an opportunity to speak to an incredible business mind, somebody successful, and especially when it's on a panel with people watching, I like to try to extract one thing that people can take away from it. So if somebody, watching us, a young professional just getting started, doesn't really have much of a community yet, but is hungry, is motivated, what tips can you give them in being able to kick their idea off the ground, or even more so, build a community around them that could support them?
So you just answered your own question. If you don't have a community, build it. What young professionals make the mistake most often is to think that they don't have the ability to actually build their own community around them. And if you look at my personal path, I wasn't a successful entrepreneur when I started Tech Aviv. I was trying to learn from others. I was very passionate about entrepreneurship. It was a topic that was a labor of love, and putting everyone together was something that I could do with a little bit of an initiative because others wanted to meet as well. If you're a young professional out there watching this and thinking, you know what, I want to get into fintech, and I live, somewhere in Wisconsin, and you are about to embark on potentially a decade-plus long journey of being a fintech entrepreneur or a fintech executive, you have the ability to start the fintech community of Wisconsin in your local neighborhood. And if you do that authentically for the purpose of giving back to that community that you create without charging for it or trying to make money in some way or having some sort of hidden financial agenda, purely, authentically for giving back, you will get back in return tenfold. That is the lesson of my career, and the lesson that I would leave everyone with who's watching this today. If you forget anything else, you have the ability as a young professional to build community. It's not as hard as it seems, and you'll be surprised how many other people around you are kind of waiting around for that community to be built so that they can join it. There are other fintech, executives or entrepreneurs who would love to get together and learn from others. Build it, and you become the connector of that community. When it comes time for you to either start your fintech company or try to find that fintech job you're looking for, you will have a network of folks who will be rooting for your success because of what you've given them. That is literally what happened to me in my professional career. I give a ton of credit to the people around me who helped make me who I am. And I've had some success professionally. Now with the new fund that we've started, I give all the credit in the world to the people around me that I was simply fortunate enough to kind of put together in order to help themselves. And that's something you can do as well. Don't forget that, regardless of how young you are or how little experience you have, community building is something you can always do. That just takes human ingenuity and the desire to help others. If you have that inside of you, you're going to do very, very well professionally. By the way, one highly recommended book on this topic is a book called Give and Take by Adam Grant. Highly recommended. Maybe we can link to it in the comments, but it's Give and Take by Adam Grant, and it talks all about this concept of how givers are the ones who ultimately win in life and in business, because they're not thinking about what can they get from others. They're thinking first, what can they give? If you lead with that, you're going to do very, very well in life and professionally. You can read the book to find out, but here's the Cliff Notes version of it. It's as simple as that.
That, you know what, I can relate to that, and I love that part of it, the give and take. One of my mentors always used to say, may you be blessed with the ability to be giving and never receiving, because that is also very fulfilling. And I think everybody, you know, that is part of this community of Edge, they're part of this community because they want to be able to give, and in return you benefit from it. But when you come with the agenda of taking, you know, people see right through that. So let me ask you, you know, obviously right now, looking at your company, your business, yourself, it's hard for people to imagine how tough it was, if it was tough, to get to this point. Can you share with us maybe a relatable struggle that a lot of entrepreneurs go through that you had, and how you've overcome it?
Sure. So for the audience here today, I'll go back to when I was a young professional, and I'll preface what I'm about to say by telling you, I think I hold the honor of having failed more than anyone else watching this right now. Unless there's some kind of like OGs from the entrepreneurial world who have tried to build companies and had some success, you've definitely failed along the way. I have failed. I've stopped counting how many times I've failed, but I think one of the most relatable stories to the young professionals involved in this particular stream is, you know, when I started my professional career right out of college, I went to go work at a fancy PR firm in New York. And 4 months into that experience, I got fired, literally fired. A security guard took my arm and literally escorted me out of the building. Okay. And I was left with rent to pay in New York City as a, 24-year-old at the time. That failure of mine, and I should have handled the situation better. I was being a brash Israeli, entrepreneurial minded employee, which doesn't really mix very well. But that failure also brought me into my zone of where I wanted to be. I did not fit corporate America, and it was my actions through that failure that led me to becoming an entrepreneur. So in any failure, there's going to be some silver lining that if you listen to it, if you stay attuned to it, you will fail forward, as I like to say. If it's a professional, based career move, listen to it. Understand your weaknesses. Be radically self-aware, and you're going to do well. If you're an entrepreneur and you fail, guess what? You've just made progress towards finding a road sign of where to go, because the direction you were on wasn't it. And so if you're on a hiking path and you see a road sign that says go left or right, you're pretty excited, right? You just found a path to go on because the path that you were on wasn't the right direction. Fantastic. If you have that positive attitude, if you look for those road signs, which other people consider failure because your bet on the direction you were taking was wrong, if you take it negatively, you fail backwards. If you take it positively and realize that failure is just a road sign on the path to where you want to go, you individually want to go, you are going to be someone who repeatedly fails forward. And ultimately, if you keep failing forward, you're going to succeed. You're going to get to that end goal that you want to get to.
Yeah, and I think, obviously it's easier said than done, but most successful entrepreneurs are excited looking back about their failures. And I think once that mindset changes and you get excited about the failure, knowing that you're getting one step closer to that success, I think that's a game changer. So I agree wholeheartedly. So what's next for Tech Aviv? What is the direction now? Where are you going with it?
So Tech Aviv is continuing to grow as a founders club. Once we can meet offline, we'll go back to our offline events. We've added some more online structure to what we do. So for example, we have a job board. If there's a young professional now out there looking to join a top Israeli startup, you can go to jobs.techaviv.com if somebody wants to link to that. And you can see all the open positions at over 200 of our fastest growing startups in our membership. And they are actively hiring for over 5,000 open positions right now. Okay, that's one of the things, for example, that we've added to try to harness the collective knowledge and networks that we have in this incredible community of 3,000 entrepreneurs. They're some of the best Israeli startups in the world with amazing jobs that you can go and apply for directly on the site. As you mentioned in the opening, this is something we haven't officially announced yet, but we're starting a founders fund at Tech Aviv so that we can back, some of our most promising founders who hopefully we can help in building important, enduring IPO caliber companies, which is a trend that's happening right now in Israel. We're the startup nation for over a decade. We're slowly becoming the scale-up nation. And we have a certain responsibility as a group of successful Israeli entrepreneurs to help the next generation build these big, iconic companies. And that's what we're doing with the new Founders Fund.
That's very exciting. So when you started, you probably had an idea, a concept in mind of what this is going to become. What is the biggest surprise that came out of it that you didn't expect?
So I have to say, when I started it, I had no grand plan. There wasn't an agenda to build an organization, certainly not a fund, 14 years later. It was purely for giving back and learning from fellow Israeli entrepreneurs. So the big surprise is we have a 3,000 member organization that's still around 14 years later. And we have a really dynamic, amazing founders fund that is now backing some of the best Israeli companies in the world. That's all of it is a surprise to me. And like I said, when you lead without an agenda and just give, you will be shocked and surprised by what comes back to you when you decide to do different things in your own career.
So I have a personal question, and hopefully others can benefit from it as well. When you are starting your startup or your business, and things finally start going for you, in your case, what was the first important hire or team member that you added to your team that really allowed you to level up?
So I'll go to the beginning of my entrepreneurial career, right? When I was
and role wise, obviously not specifically person, but like what role is.
Oh, I don't mind even talking about the specific person because he's amazing.
Okay.
So in my second company, the first company actually didn't do that well as an example of a failure. It's still around. It's a profitable company, but didn't really go anywhere. The second company, what was really the pivotal point was finding my technical co-founder. So his name is Laird Popkin. He was the founding CTO of my second company called Pando. And he was able to translate a crazy idea that I had for how to move bits around the internet in a more efficient way. Okay. We built a company that was a content delivery network using peer-to-peer based distribution of large files over the internet. And I could, as a product manager, I could kind of like sketch down on a napkin the concept of how it should work, but then translating that into code at the highest level, I'm talking world-class, full-stack engineer, was my co-founder and CTO. He made that company possible. Without him, I wouldn't have been able to have done it. And if you are a business person thinking of starting a company, if it's a technology company, a biotech company, you want to make sure you have that engineer or that scientist as your co-founder who can help make your crazy idea a practical reality. That's by far the pivotal hire that I made at the very early onset of my entrepreneurial career.
All right, awesome. So what is I asked you about Tech Aviv on the business side, what's next, but on a personal level, what is next, for Yaron on philanthropy, giving back? I know obviously you love giving back, that's your essence, but what's next for you there?
So I love that question. Thank you for asking that. So I think about our family's giving back in three main categories. Number one, being here in Israel, I am very passionate about helping our neighbors who are on our border but don't have their own country and don't have their dignity. And here we are in this prospering economy and an amazing tech ecosystem, and they are completely left out of everything that's happening on this side of the border. And I'm very passionate about finding ways to bridge the gap between the citizens of the West Bank and Gaza and Israel, not the governments. I'm not a government person, but I think the citizens share a common desire to just kind of live prosperly and in harmony. And I'm involved with a few initiatives on that front. The second category is in helping the youth of Israel who are less fortunate. So there's two groups that I'm on the advisory board of and donate to. One of them is Beit Ashanti, a home for youth at risk. The second one is E4E, which is Educating for Excellence, an amazing, amazing organization that takes kids from the periphery of Israel, both social periphery and geographical periphery, who don't have a chance to kind of get higher education or good education. And it connects them with university students who educate them after school at the highest level of like STEM-based education. The last category for me is just we donate as a family to different organizations that help feed the hungry all over the world. So those are kind of the three: hunger, youth of Israel, and then helping our Palestinian cousins live with more dignity and prosperity.
Well, I did not expect that answer, and I love that. So no better way to finish on a high note. Yaron, I want to thank you for taking the time. I know how incredible busy you are, and so thank you for sharing with us. To everybody watching, go out there, get it, build a community. Any final words?
If you need tips on how to do that, you're lost, email me, yaron@techaviv.com. Happy to help.
Beautiful. Thank you again, Yaron. Everybody, shalom. See you again soon.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, Leo.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Yaron and Lior, so much. Well, I think we can all use a refresher course on how to rebuild and recreate our network since we've been stuck for a year at home. So let's switch gears and hear the inside scoop from Omer Kalaf on a subject we can all learn more about.
It's great to be here today. Thanks, IAC, for inviting me to speak. Hi, Omer. How are you?
Good. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Great. So I'd like to start with a few words about the evolution of self-driving cars and electric cars. As you all probably know, we are experiencing a real revolution in the car industry, which is changing it massively. We're seeing that tech companies are becoming car companies like Google and Apple and Amazon. They're developing smart and connected cars. And on the other hand, we're seeing automotive companies like VW or GM or Toyota who are trying to become software companies. And who thought that that would be the case? This is really surprising. And this is really, really a race. To give you some perspectives about sales, I mean, it's not that we're seeing huge number of electric cars on the road. VW, for example, sold only 250,000 electric cars last year. Tesla sold 500,000 cars. I think that Tesla is like the biggest trigger to this fundamental shift, but I'd really love to know what Omer is thinking about this whole revolution. Where are we headed? Especially since today, 2021, we're not seeing that many electric connected and autonomous cars on the road. So Omer, this is great to have you today. And first of all, let's start with a few words on Innoviz. Tell me about Innoviz, about your technology, your market, your vision.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So Innoviz is a company that develops technologies for autonomous cars. Our lead technology is a LiDAR. LiDAR is a sensor that provides 3D vision, meaning that the car could see the surrounding around it in very long range and understand where things are. And basically, we're not only providing the sensor, we're also providing the software that translates the 3D vision into object detection and classification. Very much like you get from a camera, but on a 3D sensor, which provides redundancy to cameras.
So what are the competing technologies to LiDAR? You mentioned camera and radar.
They're not really competing, Michal. I think that eventually they're complementary. For an autonomous car to be safely driving, you need to be able to basically meet any single point of failure, and for that you need to have different sensors.
So tell me a little bit. Where do you see Innoviz advantage, and where you are in the market? I know that you were founded about 5-6 years ago. Where are you at today, and what are your major market opportunities?
Yeah, sure. So we started 5 years ago when the market acknowledged that there is a blind spot or I would say a bottleneck in the field of LiDARs because LiDARs were too expensive and too large and really not reliable enough. We came in order to solve this problem. We are today the first in the market with a product that is going to be automotive grade by the end of the year. And we already captured series production deal with BMW, and that's going to be the first program in the world to provide level 3 autonomous driving.
And you are also going public very soon. As we heard, Innoviz is going to go through a SPAC process. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So we announced our SPAC merger towards the end of this quarter. In this process, we will become public on the NASDAQ through the SPAC, which is called the Collective Growth, CGRO. This is an amazing opportunity for us because we're also raising around $350 million, which will allow us to grow further and run faster in order to capture a bigger portion of the market.
Yeah, congratulations for the SPAC. I think this is really great news. So let's deep dive a little bit about what's happening in the automotive industry today. We saw around 2016, 2017, really tipping point of excitement, close to $1 trillion investments, both of car companies, tier 1 suppliers, and also new startups thousands of new startups that just appeared. And then we're seeing in 2019 and 2020 some bubble that may have exploded because maybe there are less startups. A lot of companies are merging. Some of the OEMs are shutting their fully autonomous program, which is level 5. Omer, what do you think? What is the status of the industry today? Where are we at?
Yeah, so you're right. The automotive industry went through a hype cycle, like in any industry that goes through disruption. And at that stage, many companies saw the opportunity to become significant players in a very big market. And as we all know, the automotive market is one of the most bigger ones. And as expected, while seeing this opportunity, many try to pursue it. And normally in every hype cycle, there is a stage where you see convergence, you see less companies eventually go through that hype cycle and get to the maturity stage. So I'm not surprised that eventually only a few companies, stay. When we started, there were about 100 LiDAR companies, and if you think eventually in the automotive space, traditionally there are about 2 or 3 main players, suppliers to critical elements, specifically with functional safety parts. So I think that, you're right that in 2016, 17, there were many investments in many companies, but in 18, 19, there was about the same investment, if you talk about the amount, but with fewer companies. And now you see a third wave, which you see some companies now going public and raise a more significant amount, which will allow them to actually reach the market.
So I think a lot of the challenges around 2020, 2019 were related really to the maturity of the software solution, of the technology itself. We've seen a Tesla deathly incident. We've seen an Uber car with some, challenges. My question to you, Omar, is autonomous really ready for prime time? Can we put an autonomous car on the road? And if so, what type of car, what type of technology you want to see there to make it safe?
Yeah, so autonomous driving is really a big term. Inside it, you can find many verticals. One of them is robotaxis. As you said, it's a car that can drive from anywhere to anywhere. That's the vision, that's the dream, that's where we want to go. But clearly there is an MVP. There is a more simplified product that can reach the market safely, which is critical. Those could be level 3 cars that's a narrower feature set of autonomous driving. It's mostly driving autonomously on highways, or even shuttles, because shuttles only drive in very slowly in a predetermined path, which you can train over and over. I think those are 2 applications that will reach the market faster than others because of the simplification and also because of the right business case around it.
But you mentioned robotaxis, and we're not seeing that many robotaxis on the road yet. Everything is still under experimentation. Some with test driver and some without it, right? What can you say about the volumes today?
No, robotaxis will take a long time before they will reach the market in volume. I think that in order to fully validate a car that drives itself at any location, every weather condition, will be very difficult to fully validate. So I think also from technology maturity, I think up until today, there is not yet a robust software that can actually meet the expectations safely. So I think it will take more time. The simplified applications of level 3 shuttles and possibly trucks would be the first in the market. And over time and maturity, you will see more and more robotaxis.
And just for the audience, level 3 means that there is a driver in the car. The car could drive by itself during the day mostly, but the driver has to be fully focused and ready to take over.
No. So what you described is actually a level 2+. So level 2+ means that the car drives itself, but the driver still needs to hold the wheel and to engage if needed. Once you reach level 3, then the driver can fully disengage. That can happen when the car enters the highway, and then it can disengage. And in order to get to that level, the car needs to have the LiDAR sensor in order to provide redundancy to the camera and the radar. But if you think about Tesla today, yeah, sorry. No, so if you think about Tesla today, it's kind of a level 2. Yeah, so if you think Tesla is like a level 2+ because it drives itself, but the passenger needs still to hold the wheel and look at the road. So it's not really autonomous driving.
Great. Thanks for the answer. And I also agree that without a lidar, it will be challenging to have a level 3 car, especially for those complicated weather conditions or nights or different highway conditions. So I wanted to move to the next question because we are seeing different tech companies that are getting or trying to get into the car industry. So Apple, for example, recently announced the iCar, and they are looking currently those days for a car company, for an OEM to manufacture the car with the Apple brand, which is pretty surprising because I haven't seen any car company agreeing to manufacture a car without their brand. We're also seeing Google with Waymo actually working on autonomous car for quite long. Amazon has invested in autonomous. Sony recently announced that they have an electric autonomous vision program, and they partnered with Magna, which is a very famous tier 1 supplier. What do you think is Apple's strategy? Same for Google and Sony. Are they really positioned to make cars, to drive autonomous car technology, and to be winners in this market?
So the answer, I think, is yes. If you see Tesla as an example, which is always a good example for basically everything, they prove that a technology company can become a car company, and they can produce cars and ship it in volume and basically meet with all of the needs. Now, and Tesla is, if you see the valuation of Tesla, it's obviously almost the entire car industry by itself, and I think the valuation is based on the fact that the public sees Tesla ability to grow its market share through innovation, and basically the valuation is based on their ability to continue to basically be ahead of the competition, which is today the car companies. Apple and the other technology companies realize that this is their opportunities to become a player in this market, because technology becomes much more, I would say, competitive advantage compared to the assembly of the car. And if you think about a comparable market, which is the mobile phone, 10 years ago, there were several players. Eventually, it converged to very few, and those are the technology companies. And if you think about that, most probably in 40 years, it might get there as well in this space as well.
So the market cap of Tesla is about $750 billion, and this is higher than any other OEM. So VW, for example, market cap is valuation is $87 billion as of today. Do you think Tesla is going to be the first to launch autonomous cars? And where do you think the OEM, the car companies, are going to be once Tesla or Apple or other winners are going to win the game?
Yeah, it's a complex question because Tesla has the technical capabilities to develop a car, but they unfortunately made a bet on the wrong technology today. There is a glass ceiling between their platform today and what is really needed in order to achieve it safely. They made a decision 5 years ago on a platform that does not include the LiDAR, which means that they don't have that redundancy. They are trying to solve the problem without it, and they are facing problems, and those are problems that are basically problems of the world, fighting with physics, which means that at low light condition and rain, they will have issues driving autonomously. Car companies today that are trying to do it with a LiDAR, and that's basically the rest of the industry, would not meet those limitations and they will probably be able to achieve level 3 before Tesla. I believe that eventually Tesla would not have an alternative and will need to upgrade their platform in order to get there, and I'm sure they will do.
It's interesting that you're saying that because I was in the battery business for quite at the beginning with Better Place, and Elon Musk was always the one that had the different battery, and the car companies were fighting against his approach and his vision for the battery. And at the end, he was the first one to get into the gigafactory to have the longest range. So I don't know. I'm a personal believer in Elon Musk, but I agree that the LiDAR is in a way a must in a car. So let's see. Maybe he's going to surprise us and announce that he already has a LiDAR and it's working, and he's going into level 3. I don't know. Let's see. But for sure, he has a lot of data which he accumulated during those years. I mean, he puts the cameras and he has the data, and the cars are driving where other cars, other OEMs I mean, car companies are not on the road yet with their autonomous technology, which I think it's a major advantage.
Yeah, I think that Elon Musk is a risk taker, and that's something that inspires me and inspires others. And I think that seeing the target and trying to get there as fast as possible is something that I admire. The problem is that if you think about a situation where the camera is blinded, when there is a sun in front of the camera and the car doesn't see anything for a few seconds, it really doesn't matter how much data you collected and how strong your processing power is. If you're blind, you're blind. You won't be able to see the road and you don't know where you're going. And yes, I totally believe that eventually there won't be a different way for them to reach level 3, and I'm sure they will do it.
Yeah, and you know what? For sure, it definitely it looks like a war, and it sounds like a war between the tech companies and the OEMs. I just read an article, the Wall Street Journal, where car companies are even fighting to get semiconductor chips for the cars, for autonomous connected cars. So everyone's looking for the best solution, and we are seeing a huge competition and somewhat a bumpy road. But I wanted to ask you a few questions about the Israeli market. Mostly, Israel has been declared as a hub for automotive industry, and as you know, we don't manufacture cars at all. Back, I think a year or 2 years ago, we saw more than 700 Israeli startups, and most of them were relatively early stage, working on developing technologies for autonomous connected electric cars. But right now, we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown. What's happening in Israel, and do you think that this has been a bubble, and where is it going to evolve?
I don't think it slowed down because, as I said earlier, there was a cycle where many try to race to get to the market, and in automotive space, there is always convergence around specific technologies. You can't have tens of different LiDARs for the entire industry because the volume will not justify the cost. If you just each car company would use a different LiDAR, and it won't get to the needed maturity. So eventually there needs to be less. Now, the same way in Israel. So eventually most of those companies didn't kind of grow enough, but there are companies in Israel that are reaching maturity, and you see some of them are also going public, which is great. I think that becoming more meaningful companies, not like startups that sell the technology and try to be self-sustained public company that can grow, is a great thing for the country.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And we're seeing that those more mature companies are going public because this is the best way to raise funding in Israel. Usually, startups are a little bit earlier stage, and they're A, B, sometimes C, but at a higher level, they're usually being acquired. And I think this is a great sign for the country that startups can last longer. And I don't think you are considered a startup any longer, Omer.
It's on your mind.
I think it's important to know to the audience how challenging it is to work with a car company. And again, I was heading Lear Innovation Ventures in Israel and worked with Israeli startups, and it takes at least 5 years to go from the first, I want to say, POC into production. At least 5 years. And the startups, to be honest, is sometimes doesn't last that long, right? Omer, how did you manage to survive, and you did it so well?
I don't know if we did well, but we tried our best. I would say that we came to the market and we started not too late and not too early, meaning that when we started when the market started to grow and try to understand what it really needs. So unlike some of our competitors that started before us, we're stuck with a legacy technology that is actually not a good fit. So we designed our technology with a market that already starts to understand what it really needs. So we could really focus our effort in building the right thing. Now, by going on that path, obviously allowed us to generate good partnerships because companies saw what we're doing and were aligned with our strategy, and the fact that BMW chose us in a very early stage. We didn't have even our product or our components. It was basically on the fact that they agreed with our strategy on the way that we're trying to solve this, and after spending a year of due diligence with us, they trust that this team can actually deliver. That was that's exactly what eventually led us to win the program, and that gave us the opportunity to grow. And to your comment earlier, I think that the trend of SPAC is really one of the most amazing things that could happen to Israel, because what you said is accurate. I mean, in Israel you can find funding for A round and B round. Growth stages are very, very difficult. So companies in Israel tend to sell too early because of that, because they find it more difficult to go through the desert that you need to go through in order to become, efficient company with significant revenues, and then go to, becoming to grow and go public. The SPAC is actually really a good fit to Israel. Which has amazing technologies that could become leading technologies and can really take a big part of markets leaders with significant funding that could be generated from going public.
Yeah, and I just want to mention Mobileye because that's another Israeli success in pride. And
who?
Mobileye. Yeah, you forgot. So I just want to start to summarize here. We don't have much time left. So one almost last question. When are we going to see full autonomous car on the road?
Okay, so again, autonomous cars with specific verticals like level 3, such as the one that BMW is developing, you should be able to see on the road in a year and a half or two. Shuttles, you can actually start to see shuttles already on the road in low volume, and more over the following years. And I think that would allow penetration of significant volume of autonomous driving technologies, which will allow further maturity, and obviously getting the volume higher would allow lower cost, which will lead the path to get to even higher level of autonomous driving, such as level 4 and level 5, I believe towards the year of 26 or 7, maybe even 8.
That's great. And level 5 meaning that there is no driver at all in the car. Which
it basically means that there is no human being in a vehicle. And again, like if you think about there are vehicles that are in infrastructures that could become autonomous much earlier than that. It's really about the use case and how narrow you can make it.
I agree, and we're already seeing a lot of most of the OEMs are running experiments without a driver. So hopefully it all will go safely, and we'll see them as soon as possible. And now just to the last question, Omer, just a personal question. You're going through a major shift in your career. So from a young entrepreneur to becoming a CEO of a public company.
A young CEO of a public company.
A young CEO of a public company. How do you think about it? And are you excited about this shift?
Yes, of course. Yes, I think I think it's great. I think it motivates the team Obviously, now that we're going to be public and traded, they have the opportunity to have direct effect on the company and on their own success through the company's success. And I think it also allows Innoviz to have very strong investors long term and have a very strong balance sheet. I mean, when you are in automotive and working with car companies that want to pick you, select you for programs for 15 years, they want to work with a partner that is financially stable. And going through this process provides us that kind of capability and to show to our customers that Innoviz is going to be here for the long term. We can grow. We are now competing on business that, one of the concerns is always our ability to support multiple programs simultaneously, because for each program you need really tens or sometimes hundreds of people. And this is our way to achieve it. I'm excited about this because I think that Innoviz is a very unique company. I think that the team here is one of the most unique teams I've seen ever. And I've been in really good companies. And I think that fueling that team with ability to innovate and continue to provide solutions to this industry will help the industry to get where it needs.
Yeah, and you're already speaking like a CEO of a public company. So I'm very excited, and I think this is an amazing Israeli pride. And we wish you really good luck with the SPAC, and I'm looking forward to see you on the floor at NASDAQ. I don't know if you're planning to fly there.
I don't think anyone knows what's going on with the sky. I'm waiting for it as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Omer. And thanks for the audience for listening and being here with us.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Dahlia Sassoon. I'm in Los Angeles and I'm a 3D architectural and interior designer. I'm a leader in Edge because I love being part of the successful community.
Leo Yehuda, chairman of LEAD. I'm involved with Edge because I love being surrounded by successful people.
Hi, my name is Ita. I'm from Miami, Florida. I'm in Edge because I love Israel and because I want to develop my personal and professional network.
Hey, my name is Ran. I'm from Los Angeles. I'm a leader in Edge because I want to develop my personal and professional network.
My name is Danielle, and I am a leader here at Edge Miami, Florida, and I'm so honored to be part of this awesome group where I know that together we can achieve all things.
My name is Shani Gill from Los Angeles. I'm a realtor as well as chair of the amazing IC Care. And I'm a leader in Edge because I want to connect with like-minded young professionals, and I love being part of this amazing and really successful community. Thank you.
I am a leader in Edge because I want to connect with like-minded young professionals. I love Israel. I want to develop my personal and professional network. I want to expand my professional opportunities, and I love being part of this successful community.
Hi, I'm Carrie Stamps from Las Vegas, and I am a designer. I am in Edge because I love being a part of this successful community, and I want to connect with other like-minded young professionals.
Hi again. So I hope you were all able to make new friends and, most importantly, new business connections. And hey, who knows, maybe even meet your next date. So our members are now able to head over to the 40 Under 40 session, and the rest of you get some sleep because tomorrow we have a big day ahead of us, followed by an evening pouring party. See you soon.
I was born in Israel. My family immigrated to the U.S. when I was 8. At that time in San Diego, there wasn't really an Israeli community that we were aware of.
Up to a few years ago, when we had our older ones, we didn't have opportunity like Keshet.
Keshet is the first step for kids in Israeli American families or Israeli families who live in America to connect with the Israeli community.
ההורים רוצים לתת לילדים שלהם את החוויה, מה זה להיות ישראלי, מה זה ילדות ישראלית.
I want my girls to be in Keshet because I like the fact that they're spending time with more Israelis, learning about the culture, the holidays, because they go to schools that they don't put the focus on that.
לי חשוב שהילדות שלי, אחת, ידעו מאיפה אבא שלהם בא וגדל, ושתיים, אני רוצה לדבר איתם בעברית.
One of the challenges that we have as a family is preserving the Hebrew language. Keshet give us the support that we needed because most of the activity has been done in Hebrew. And the kids also interact within themselves in Hebrew.
לדבר בעברית ולצחוק בעברית ולספר בדיחות בעברית.
To really get that exposure for them, but in a fun manner.
I like that we do lots of fun arts in Keshet. I have lots of friends.
It's important for me because I didn't have this opportunity. And I really want her to have a positive Israeli influence. It's a big part of her heritage. It's a huge part of my heritage as well.
For me, Keshet is Israel. For me, Keshet is Ivri. Making friends. Fun. For me, Keshet is Mishpacha.